My suggestion for changing our ways immediately, I think in the first year we could cut the budget by $1 trillion. I'd argue the case is the easiest place in the world to cut the spending because there are so many special interests involved, but we can develop priorities. And I think the top priority for cutting is the money we waste overseas. We've had essentially a perpetual war going on for many, many years, and unfortunately, the executive branch have made all the decisions. They don't come to the Congress, they don't come to the people. Sometimes they go, and as a real insult, they go to the United Nations to get permission. So once again, what is the solution? Follow the Constitution. You can't go to war unless there's a declaration. And we do. That is the responsibility of the federal government to have a strong national defense. And if we have an enemy that's attacking us, yes, declare a war, go fight it, win it, and get it over with. War should end. We should start bringing our troops home from around the world. Save hundreds of billions of dollars, and guess what? You don't have to sacrifice any defense. The way we spend money overseas, bombing and attacking and invading and occupying, we make enemies. What we don't need are more enemies. What we need is more defense. That means not just pumping money into the military-industrial complex, but pumping money into the defense of this country. You look at the donations to our campaign, we get twice as much as all the other candidates put together from active military duties. So they know what's going on. They've been over there. I talked to so many young men and women who have come back from Afghanistan and Iraq, and they are not excited about going back for a fourth or a fifth or a sixth tour dirty. They know what's going on, and we ought to listen to the veterans because they know that this is a futile exercise. And it's such a payment, not only in life and limb, but in cost. In the last 10 years, we've added over $4 trillion to our national debt to pursue these wars that we can't afford and aren't doing us any good. So this is a very good place to start. And we should be able to bring a lot of people together, left or right or moderates, bring people together and say, if you have to spend the money, spend it at home, not overseas. Washington get passed because of the name, but almost inevitably, if you look at the name of a bill, just say in your mind, well, it's going to do exactly the opposite. they play tricks on us that way. So it wasn't very patriotic to vote for the Patriot Act. And if it had been called repeal of the Fourth Amendment Act, nobody would have voted against it. And that's what it did. This administration has done some things that very annoying. They certainly haven't done anything to revive the economy. But a couple of things that are very annoying to me is the attack on civil liberties. And of course, he was the individual that would protect civil liberties and bring troops home and whatnot. But what he announced 1 year ago was very annoying. It should have been a warning. 1 year ago, he had a representative testify before a Senate committee that said it was now the official policy of the United States government that it could assassinate American citizens without charges. And to prove his point, he assassinated 3 American citizens. This should not go unnoticed. And of course they say, well, these are bad people. The thing of it is, they weren't all bad people. We don't know. They were suspects. We're not supposed to be assassinated because you're suspect. And now what they're saying, if you're even associated with an organization that is suspect, you can be hauled in. You know, whether it's a website, an organization, a donation, or whatever. You know, the old-fashioned way of being a suspect and proven to be guilty in the court of law is still pretty important. We need to be able to keep hold of that. The law now says that the military can arrest any American citizen, no charges made, and held indefinitely, no trial, and they don't even give an attorney. That is not the kind of America that we want to live in, and we have to deal with that. There was one provision in that bill that went to this extent. Unfortunately, it was caught before it was passed. It said that if an American citizen had been arrested and he was a suspect or participant in whatever, and he was tried and found innocent, the government could still hold him indefinitely, and the trial meant nothing.
Oh my God.
That was There was a certain senator from Kentucky that got that part of the bill removed. We can't get back on our feet again if we don't get the money returned to the people, which means that we have to greatly reduce the spending and greatly reduce the taxes. We have to defend it from a moral viewpoint. If you have the moral right to your life and the moral right to your liberty, why don't we have the moral right to keep the fruits of our labors? Direct taxation is a vicious burden on all of us, but that isn't all. They can borrow money and pass the debt on to another generation, but they also can just print up the money and dilute the money we have, and the people who try to work and save, they get robbed as well. When that happens, countries have done this notoriously many, many times, and every time they do it, they wipe out the middle class. And just look around. What do you think's happened to the middle class in the last 4 years? The prosperity has gone down, the wealth has gone down, the middle class has shrunk, and guess what? There's a characteristic of what happens under these conditions, and the wealth is transferred. It's transferred to a privileged class. And the privileged class are those who benefit from the inflation, those who have influence on Washington, and that's why the lobbyists and the money is so much in control today, and the people have lost control. That is why we need to follow through with this intellectual political revolution that is absolutely necessary. The Fed will be ended. It'll self-destruct in the near future. But the one thing that everybody ought to agree, a lot of people don't go to the extent of ending the Fed. It sounds like a few of you here would end the Fed like I was. But probably 85% of the American people say, audit the Fed and find out what they've been up to.
Yeah!
Bailout in these last several years, the Congress created about $1 trillion of bailout money, and they bailed out companies and banks and who knows what. But at least it was on the surface, and at least it was appropriate money. The Fed was involved with $15 trillion of churning credit, bailing out banks, foreign governments, foreign banks, and they're still in the business of it. Bernanke's been to Europe and already guaranteed that he will be available if the banks get into trouble and the banks involved in sovereign debt is not worth anything like Greek debt. At the same time, our banks are intertwined with the foreign banks, and they've been involved with the derivatives movement, and therefore they say it's necessary. They said if we don't keep bailing them out, there's going to be a depression. But have you ever wondered, maybe they deserve the depression, and you don't deserve the depression. Why a lot of people reject the notion of having enough freedom to run your life as you choose, because somebody might do things that are offensive. But if somebody practices a religion or doesn't practice religion, we don't say you shouldn't have the freedom to do that. So what you need to do, if people use their freedom in a certain way, you have to be tolerant enough, and you have to say, well, we're not sanctioning what it is, we don't endorse what they do, and that's entirely different. That is the only way freedom will work. And without that tolerance and this understanding, it will fail. Now, one thing that is pretty neat about the concept of liberty is I'm convinced personally, if I had a choice, between liberty and wealth, I would want my liberty. I just think that would be it. But unfortunately, our society has concentrated on the wealth and forgot about the liberty. Now we're losing both. But if you defend liberty, it's automatic that you'll have the richest country in the world, the biggest middle class, and the best distribution. Other countries, how they're supposed to run their country. Even when they mess up, we don't have the right to go into those countries and occupy their countries and say, you're going to do this, this, and this. Those who want to go about the world in a military sense and force our way on others say that we should do it because we're an exceptional nation, American exceptionalism. And there is a bit of American exceptionalism. We have been a great country. We had a great constitution, and there are a lot of very good values in America. But once you use force to force it on other countries, you lose it all. You're no longer exceptional. So we have to We have to do our job here to set an example, have a free and prosperous society, and then maybe people would want to emulate us. They're less likely to want to emulate us if we forcing ourselves on other people and too much force in the world on individuals and the economy and around the world. And if we accept that, believe me, we could arrive at a much more peaceful and a much more prosperous society. Thinking of what we're doing to our own civil liberties. Yes, we have a lot of fears and concerns, and there are some people who would want to do us harm, but we're doing more harm to ourselves. We're destroying our money. We're destroying our liberties. We're undermining our freedoms here at home. So, and we're murdering the middle class. So we don't have to do that. We don't have to invent anything new. We had a great example. It was wonderful, and we enjoyed it. But now we have to redefine the role of government. The government should not be there to run the welfare state or to police the world. Our government should be there in a very limited fashion to defend our liberties. The Constitution is good, but it isn't the Constitution that holds us together. It's the people's attitude and their willingness to assume responsibility of what a free society is all about. The good news, the very good news is that there is a revolution going on.